Bill Shorten's going to pledge direct financial support, your money, a further distortion of the energy market. In other words, renewables can't survive without being supported by your dough. And there'll be a $200 million commitment apparently today. I mean, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I just think this is laughable. It's all you can do. To install batteries in 100,000 homes and batteries in more than 1 million households within 6 years. This is how they'll get to the 50% renewable energy target. We'll have solar and wind, and we know they won't work. So they'll have batteries in your home because we know that renewables are not reliable, not available, not affordable. And this target will be locked in. This will be the centrepiece. It's unbelievable. I just think this is I can't believe a sensible and responsible political party. And really, there's a case for Scott Morrison calling an immediate election, isn't there? On this alone. And the Financial Review reports today, I've got no knowledge of this other than what I've read, that Mr Shorten will say, while Labor remains committed to a national energy guarantee, I'm trying to get Angus Taylor on the line here, the Energy Minister, but the bloke must be just laughing his head off. They won't be holding the nation and the energy sector hostage while waiting for the coalition to resolve its differences. What the bloke's talking about? How much damage if we head down this road? I mean, already we've got evidence of this in Victoria. Same story. I mean, if we get a very, very, very hot summer, we won't have enough electricity. We won't have enough energy. Now, what happened in Victoria? They have legislated in Victoria for a renewable energy target requiring 25% of Victoria's energy generation to come from renewables by 2020, 40% by 2040. And so then the Andrews government tripled the state brown coal royalties. So Hazelwood Power Station closed down. Mr Turnbull, wouldn't reopen it because Tony Abbott said it should stay open. So 25% of Victoria's energy requirements were gone from the grid. 25%. So what are they saying? Knowing that renewables won't work and can't provide available, reliable and affordable energy, they've then unveiled a $1 billion plan. This is in Victoria, and this is what Bill Shorten's going to do today. A $1 billion plan to underwrite 6 new solar and wind farms in Victoria. 5 of them will be foreign-owned, and then they're going to install 11 diesel generators on the Mornington Peninsula. Unbelievable. Basically, diesel generators to ensure the lights stay on because solar and wind are unreliable. I can't believe we've reached this point, but as you know, Terry McCrann and I have talked, I might be completely wrong, about a national economic suicide note. Here it is. The richest energy country in the world, and we've come to this. Daniel, hello.
Good morning, Al.
Yeah.
Look, I just wanted to say that there's some benefits and obviously negative detractors to solar. I'm currently building a house and I'm installing solar and battery as a way of sort of insulating myself against power market fluctuation in prices, which is fine if I can afford it. You know, not everybody can. But what I found out is there's some severe limitations to solar. Now, while solar's come a long way now, and amazingly, some panels will even work when it's raining, the idea of batteries for me is so that, you know, I've still got stuff running overnight. But what I found is if I wanted to run heavy current items like air conditioning and, you know, clothes dryers and things like that, it'll actually chew the guts out of my battery. My battery would be lucky to last a year. And we're talking about, an $8,000 Sonnen battery, you know, German manufactured, best in the market you can get. It'll kill it.
See, look, that's fine in your own personal choice, and that's good. But just let me give you one stat. You see, this is the issue. You closed Liddell in 2022, which AGL want to do because AGL can get money from renewable energy. I'll talk to Angus Taylor in a moment about this. That means you'd have to replace 2,000 megawatts. That's Liddell's capacity, 2,000 megawatts. That would require a total of 93 million solar panels. That would cost $20 billion. Then you'd need the transmission lines to get that energy onto the grid. Then you'd need the backup for when the sun isn't shining. And so you'd need an area for all of these solar panels equal to 28 Melbourne CBDs. This is what we're talking about. I mean, this defies common sense. And we either want to pursue this ideology relentlessly and send the country broke. I mean, AGL at Liddell want to move from coal to renewables. Now, the scale of the problem of replacing a large coal-fired power station, the scale is monumental. Now, the AGL's largest solar plant is at Nyngan. And I'm simply saying, and if anyone wants to disprove my figures, away you go. But to replace Liddell, 2,000 megawatts, would require 69 Nyngans. 69. That is a total of 93 million solar panels costing $20 billion. Then you've got to get the energy to the grid. You've got to build the transmission lines. Then you need backup for when the sun is not going to shine. And you'd need an area of over 17,000 hectares, equivalent to 28 Melbourne CBDs. Now, when Lord Ridley, a member of the British House of Lords, was writing for the Spectator magazine on the 13th of May last year, and he asked a question of himself, a rhetorical question, quote, to the nearest whole number, what percent of the world's energy consumption was supplied by wind power in 2014, which was the last year for which there were reliable figures? To the nearest whole number, what percentage of the world's energy consumption was supplied by wind power in 2014? Was it 20%, he said? Was it 10%? Was it 5%? He answered his own question. None of the above. It was 0%. That is to say, to the nearest whole number, there is still no wind power on Earth. And he made the point that wind provided in 2014 0.46% of global energy consumption. 0.46, solar 0.35. I mean, we are kidding ourselves, and we've got coal coming out of our ears, we've got uranium coming out of our ears. Angus Taylor is the Federal Minister for Energy, and whatever else he might know or not know, it's generally conceded, this is not my pumping up Angus Taylor's tyres, it's generally conceded that this bloke has most probably forgotten more before he came into the Parliament about energy policy and renewable energy than everybody in the Parliament knows. And as I've said earlier today, he's just got to be laughing. You can't take this stuff seriously. And Angus Taylor, good morning to you. Thank you for your time. But I'm sorry, I can't take this stuff seriously. So we're going to install, 1 million batteries. Isn't that proof positive that they're not going to be able to provide the electricity required from solar and wind?
Well, let me add another stat to what you just said there, Alan. If you took the batteries that Bill Shorten's going to pay for, this is a big new Labor handout. They love their handouts, and I've got nothing against people putting up batteries if it's a personal choice. But if you take the money he's going to spend on it, that will keep the Tomago smelter going up near Newcastle for about 15 minutes. Or $200 million worth he's going to spend on this. 15 minutes for an aluminium smelter. Now, if we want to keep heavy industry going in this country, if we want to keep the aluminium smelters going, the steel mills, the abattoirs, if we want to make sure that we've got the jobs in all of those industries that require energy. So important. Irrigators out there, with the drought, they use a huge amount of energy. If we want to keep these industries alive and well and competitive in this country, we've got to have low-cost, affordable, reliable sources of power. Now, what Bill Shorten has conceded in what he's put out today is that you will pay more for your power under Labor. That is absolutely clear. You can't trust Bill Shorten to keep the lights on. And it appears that he's on the side of the big energy companies. And they're three things we simply won't stand for, and it's why we're determined, as I've said before on your show, Alan, to bring in more affordable, reliable, 24/7 power. That means coal, gas, hydro. You've got to get the mix right. But it's got to be power that's there.
Well, look, this is
at a low cost.
Look, I'm sorry. Normally, I would allow myself to be involved in a deep philosophical or policy debate here. I can't take this seriously. I'm sorry. There will be a litmus test this Saturday, will there not? Because Daniel Andrews himself, it'll be interesting to see whether the Victorians are alert to all of this. He has a legislated policy of 25% of renewables by 2020, 40% by 2040, and the closure of Hazelwood has taken 25% of Victoria's energy requirements out of the grid. He's unveiled 6 new solar and wind farms, $1 billion, taxpayers' money. 5 of the 6 projects are foreign-owned, and now he's got this crackpot proposal, a bit like Bill Shorten, that they'll install 11 diesel generators at the Mornington Peninsula. Just one simple question, because I think all this has got to be reduced to simplicities. From your perspective and your knowledge, and as I said, you've forgotten more about this than most people know, if you start talking about installing batteries in 100,000 or 1 million homes, doesn't it mean that you're admitting that you cannot guarantee reliable, available and affordable energy via wind and solar?
Yes, that's exactly right, Alan. And the real problem with this is even if they install those batteries, it doesn't touch the sides. It's not even close to enough. 15 minutes for the Tomago smelter. I mean, if we want to keep jobs in this country, if we want to keep manufacturing, if we want to be a country that keeps making things, you have to have an electricity system that's affordable, that can provide that reliable power.
Well, you're not the Prime Minister, but why wouldn't you call an election immediately? This is such a critical national issue, and make this alone the issue. You want to go this way or that way. It's energy policy. I mean, this is a suicide note. This is an economic suicide note, which I have been warning for some time. Can I just hang on there, because there's some callers here who want to ask you a question. Dave from Wollongong. Yes, Angus Taylor's on the line. Dave?
Yeah, ask the Minister.
You ask him. You ask him.
What would be the carbon footprint to build all of these batteries?
Well, it would be enormous, but the bigger issue, and Dave, if you're down in Wollongong, you've got a steel mill there, it needs low-cost, affordable, reliable power. I was down there just last week at Port Kembla, and, we've got to have the affordable, reliable power, and you simply can't get it at the price we need to in the way Bill Shorten's proposing to do it.
But it's a very good point that Dave makes, isn't it? I mean, if they're talking about reducing the carbon footprint, how much carbon dioxide is going to be emitted in the manufacture of all these millions of batteries?
You're right, Alan. And but at the end of the day, we've got to have affordable.
That's all that matters. It's got to be available, affordable, and reliable.
Exactly right.
All right, Minister. Good on you. Thank you for your time.